What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle. In this video for the Fabulous Fear Machine, I'll be giving you a quick starter guide as well as a quick review at the end of the video. Before we get started, I gotta send out some thanks and give you some info. The video is sponsored by Fixerama Studios and AMC as the publisher. If you like what you see in the video, I will have a link in the description and in the pinned comments. All it does is take you to the Steam store, and it just shows that you got there through my channel. If you're on a wish list or even buy the Fabulous Fear Machine, please use that link to do so. Now we'll talk about what the game is, how to play it, before moving on to the review portion of the video. What is the Fabulous Fear Machine? It is classified as an outbreak sim, which is a fitting genre. If I can be honest, I had no idea that it was a genre, but after playing it, it makes total sense. It focuses heavily on resource management, which we'll talk about in the mechanics section, and it has an emphasis on character-driven stories. The main goal of the game is to spread fear like a plague. This is why it looks like an outbreak sim, so I think that's a really cool way to use the map. And to do this, your main instrument is a local legends type of deck. So what these cards are things that are based off either conspiracy theories or local myth like Krampus, and it is your job to look at the requirements for all the messages you're trying to spread and then allocate these cards accordingly. What adds to the replayability of this, even if you have seen the story already, is that you can always order your things differently on the map and try and win a different way. Once you have met the requirement to spread the message, normally it's fear and sometimes it's a different stat which you can see on your decks. Usually it's an ample amount of fear, which is just built up by leveling up your legends and events, and then you use your other cards that have different stats as denoted by their symbols on the type of card. And once you have achieved all of the stat requirements for fear and all the other stuff in the region, then you can play your message. The logic here is that you're trying to convince people to do some rather not good things most of the time, and in order to make them susceptible to your message, you have to scare them so much that they'll actually believe it. Some of the themes can be a little dark too. In the first story with Jen, one of her objectives is to get opiates unbanned. So there's some fun there trying to see how the character rationalizes doing this and how they go about it. The next mechanic to talk about are resources. There's oleum, which is basically oil, and you need this to do a lot of the major things in the game. So if you want to explore a new city in order to start working in it, you need to have some oleum. If you want to make sure you don't lose the game by having the fire go out, then you need to make sure your oleum production is high. The way you do this is you get the cities nearby in the little fear bubble, and if you've explored the city with one of your agents, which we'll talk about in a minute, then you can establish a refinery there. For me, this is one of the first things I try and set up in any city when I get there the first time, because it is so vitally important. The next resource to talk about is time. So every second or 2 seconds or whatever is essentially 1 day in the game. Everything you do takes time. If you're trying to set up new operations in a city, it takes time. If you're trying to level up your legends, it takes time. If you're trying to go on incursions against rivals, which we'll talk about in a minute, that also takes time. And if you're trying to solve problems, it takes time, which makes it very important to understand how much time things are going to take relative to each other, so things aren't happening that you can't answer because you're spending too much time doing something else. During the tutorial, the game tells you that you can pause time by hitting spacebar or unpausing it by hitting spacebar and speed it up by holding spacebar, but you can actually do these with right click as well, which is my preferred method. The third resource to talk about is essence. Essence is something that you can essentially mine or extract from a given location. If you've already explored the city and you're allowed to work there, then you have to explore a different part of the city, which will take usually about 30 days or less. Once you've done that, you can install an essence extractor, and the agent can work to pull that essence from the city. Essence has a few uses. The main one is to level up your legends, so you can see which one it will need at the bottom right corner of the screen. This way you know what to focus on. But also these same essences can be used to level up your agents. Each one needs a different one. And then finally, there are certain events that will pop up while you're playing that sometimes can be solved with essence. Actually, there is one more thing that essence addresses, and that is when you're trying to stop your rivals. Again, talking about it in a minute. Before we talk about rivals though, let's talk about agents. Every character gets access to agents, and These are characters that are serving your ambitions. They're all a bit better at different things than each other, so there's no one character, at least that I've seen so far, that you just use over everyone else. And this is the main way that you're going to measure your time spent doing things. It's the agent taking time to work on projects. Agents pretty much do everything for you in this game. You need them to do all the stuff I was talking about, such as incursions, essence extraction, exploring cities, and the like. This is where your main use of time comes in, because agents are the ones that are always on the clock, so to speak. So it's very important to keep track of what they're doing and how much time they're spending doing it. The next major gameplay mechanic are rivals. These are more or less the antagonists of the character's story that step in to try and derail their efforts. They usually appear a little bit after you get started in the mission, and the game gets really tricky when you're trying to balance all of your other objectives, spreading messages, farming essence, and then also trying to deal with the rival as well. What's cool about rivals is that they have their own agenda that they're trying to enact while you're doing your own thing. So far, I have not been able to ignore any rival that's on the map, because once they have locked off enough of the map from you, you cannot win the game and you have to start over. The way rivals defeat you is that they go to all the cities and take up card slots just like you're using, and they try to enact their own schemes. The way you defeat these schemes is you have to use your agent's time to run an incursion against the rival to learn information about them and how to defeat them. Then you have to meet all of the requirements to do so. The way the agents work is that they fill up their funding meter, which is right under their picture, and once it's filled up, they can essentially attack a card slot, and then after enough time passes, they take over the region. So what makes these really difficult sometimes is that you have to balance all of the other things you're doing, such as fostering your legends, exploring cities, farming resources, and also defeating someone else. The rival system is something I really enjoy because it gives the characters a little more depth and background, because they have dialogue back and forth with them, and it gives you something else to do other than just farming and progressing the mission. For the back half of the video, I'm going to talk about what I like and actually dislike in the game as a quick review. The first thing I do like is the art style. I love the comic book art style. I love the fear machine operator. I don't really know what to call him, but it looks like a ventriloquist dummy that's sentient and possessed, and that's kind of creepy. I really like the storytelling elements where you get bits and pieces depending on who you're talking to and when you finish the mission. And overall, I just feel the game is really fun to play, because once you put together all the mechanics and understand what you're doing, you can actually get through stuff pretty quickly. The couple things I do dislike about the game is that the tutorial kind of drags on for a bit. I understand, because there's a lot of information that you have to give the player, but it is a bit cumbersome the first time you open it. Second thing isn't really a dislike, it's more of just a request. The game has this really awesome opening cutscene that's voice acted, and I would like to have more of those throughout the game. There might be, I haven't finished the game yet, but if there are more, then great. Alright, well, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you're thinking down below in the comments. Thank you once again to Fixturama Studios and AMC for sponsoring. If you enjoy the gameplay, make sure to click the link in the description and the pinned comment. They're the same thing. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.